Too bad. All right. We have the red blinking light of liveness. This is the Data Center News Show. I am your host, Amy Palvido, and I have some hosts today. Guests today. They're hosts too. It works. Y'all are promoted. You're all now hosts, and we are going to be we're going to be talking about all things like liquid cooling and just the latest news and trends in the data center industry. And before we get started, I will let them introduce themselves. Oh, and before I do anything, I am so happy to we are sponsored by Ellis Electric, and I'm so happy to have Andy on the show. I always have to give them props for being our very first sponsor of the show. Very first. It's awesome sauce. I really appreciate you. You have no idea. And our website will be live this week, where you can get every episode. If you want to watch it on our website, you can watch it on our website. All the stuff that we're doing will be on our website, datacenternews.show. It is going live. Look at that. Isn't that cool? All right, let's get to the show. Gabe, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir. You're on mute, I don't know.
Is it coming through?
There you are. Sorry. There you go.
All right. Apologies. Once again, my mouth got ahead of my brain. So my apologies. At Nine Technologies focused on liquid cooling to the data center. My career track was accidentally finding data centers back at the close of 2000. So like everyone else around here that's a veteran, it's been a joyful journey, and never been smart enough to say no to the wild and crazy in this industry, to be a part of the leading edge of where their market goes. This beautiful world of data centers has taken me to more corners of the planet than the military ever did. So happy to talk about all kinds of things. Obviously, I love, I will lean to the liquid cooling, but you can't talk high density without talking site, power, air, and noise, and all of the other fun things that social media likes to make today's worst case end of the world scenario that is never well informed.
Yes, very true. And Steve, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Nice to meet everybody here. Hey, Gabe, great opening. I'm in the cooling space for the last 30 plus years, largely in the graphic arts industry. Printing presses, Heidelberg printing presses, Komori printing presses, global manufacturers brought products to the marketplace back in the late 90s that required liquid cooling. And so we developed products for that market, very compact, very unique to the application of the press that required multiple zones and so forth. So thermodynamic background, high density cooling. We cool UV curing lamps at 900 degrees C. So we've evolved into quite a variety of different products along the way, and we're now just entering into this market, believe it or not, because our core product looks like it fits in a place that there may be an open gap. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And Andy.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's always interesting to meet new people. Nice to meet you, Steve and Gabe. And Gabe, I'm ex-military, and it's nice to travel different parts of the world with not having to bring a weapon with you. So that's good. Yeah. Sometimes you might need one, right? I understand. So, yeah. But interesting enough, when I ran a bus bar division of Method Electronics here in Chicago, I had a lot of experience working with some big companies that were putting data centers together, and that was a lot of fun. And Steve, my background goes all the way back to DC drives, which was one of the primary movers of printing presses when they were electrified. So
right.
I'm also living in Chicago, which has a very strong history of printing. So we have between you gentlemen, we have some things in common. My job, I've been with LS for about 8 years. Prior to that, I was 4 years with Schneider Square D Services, and then I was with Methode Electronics, and before that, I was with a couple of Japanese companies in automation, Yaskawa Electric and Fuji Electric. But it's a great industry, data centers. It's a lot of fun, a lot of things going on, and I'm just happy to say that LS is very aggressive in the marketplace, and we're building components in Texas, not too far from Amy, in lovely
Right.
Bastrop, Texas. And then we're building switchgear out in Utah, and we're doing medium voltage today, metal clad, and then we'll be doing low voltage UL891 in the future. We're undergoing a plant expansion out there now. But until then, we have factories in South Korea mainly where we can build switchgear today and components. But so anyway, we're with a small David against the four big, large Goliaths and components and switchgear and power distribution. So we're having fun growing. So that's a quick history of me and what I'm up to.
Very cool. All right. Before we get started, do the Bears leave Chicago? Who's where were you at?
It
isn't
going
decided
right
yet.
to the hard-hitting questions off the bat.
I
Wow.
know.
It isn't decided yet, but the Hobart Bears doesn't have quite the same ring as the Chicago Bears.
I know.
Okay?
Well, do you know? Well, like who is it? The Giants are in New Jersey. Like they still call themselves the New York Giants. So
That's right.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen if they move out of the state of Illinois. I can guarantee you that. All right. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a season ticket holder, but I have a couple friends that are, and pretty much unanimously they said they would turn in their tickets if that happens. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
we'll see what happens. So I think it's more of a negotiation tactic. We'll see what happens. Nobody can predict the future. I mean, right now, Hobart's offering to build a $2 billion stadium for them, and the Bears don't have to pay a nickel. So that's a pretty tough ante. So we'll see what the state of Illinois comes back with. I hate to see him move out of Chicago, but the mistake was when they redid at the 2003, they redid Soldier Field and turned it into an ugly stadium. They should have put a dome on it then, but there was too much blowback that it was historical. And in retrospect, that was a bad decision. But you know, we'll see where things go. I mean,
the Packers don't have a dome, so I guess they were like, the Packers don't have a dome, so I guess they didn't want to feel like they were like wimps because they have a dome. But I don't know, no idea. Like the Vikings have a dome. It's very pleasant, by the way, when you go to a Vikings game. It's like 73 degrees. It's awesome. Great, but now I'm with you. All right, let's get this party started.
Well, now they're really what they want is they want a stadium and they want an entertainment area around the stadium, with different venues. So that requires some forward thinking. They might even, who knows? Maybe could put a data center into a stadium. Would that make sense?
It would make sense
because we can rotate water and waste heat to give you heated.
Exactly. We can heat the dome with the
stadium. So heat your chairs. So regardless of weather, all I got to do is run 36-degree water through there, and now it's not going to freeze. Right? A whole bunch of wonderful things that we could come up with from a data center design sitting underneath a stadium.
Yeah,
correct.
For sure.
Hey, speaking of which, Amy, one of the takeaways from the State of the Union that you didn't on your list, I just like to bring up that I thought was interesting because we had some internal discussion about that, was the statement from the president saying that he's let the tech bros loose. They can build their own power infrastructure. So that I think that that has the potential, if that does come to pass, honestly, to open up a lot of power availability for data centers to continue to take off. That's just kind of our read on it. Or what do you guys think? I'd like to hear your opinion.
Well, yeah, you're totally right. That was a big miss on my part because I watched that whole thing, and when he announced that, my thought was they're already doing it. Like I think it's a lot of data centers or developers are looking at behind the meter solutions. But what did we get the gist of what he was talking about though? Like, is he gonna like pass a national law that I don't know what that meant. Did y'all get it?
So
it's in the
Andy,
vein
my
of-
read, go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So my read is that it doesn't changes anything from today, but it opens the gates, right? Because we are still in a point that bureaucracy still gets in the way, right? And so I don't think that this changes anything in 26 or 27. I think that we're laying the seeds today so that the projects of 28 can then take off, right? Because then the true value becomes data centers go to where they should have been at the onset of them, is out in an industrial area where I get a power plant, a data center sitting as the hub that then distributes these other industries, right? And now we all work together and no one cares because I'm not stealing power from residents or commercial. I'm not stealing infrastructure. I'm not taking your power, right? It's all contained here. We now build our own jobs. We build our own space. And now data centers out in the middle of nowhere, guess what they bring? Some of the greatest, most structurally sound and most secure infrastructure that anybody could want. And then now we can build out from the interior of states, countries, counties, and build out, and it becomes an investment. And that's where we're going to be. And I think that my read is that is the kick of the snowball down from the peak, and we'll start to see that grow as we go, right? You can go 3 years back and the idea of data center industry complexes or campuses, right? We started, you could see little pockets of chatting, but we were always constrained by the unwillingness of this country to release those power developments to be owned by privatized businesses, right? And I think this is that and what we really need is less about being able to build our power plants, but getting the IAEA to update their standards to become more 2020 friendly with the technology, so we can start to deploy SMRs and other nuclear technology that is the cleanest solution that you're ever going to get, is going to last for eternity. And at the end of its use, it becomes just a big rock, which is inert and no problems based upon today's technology and uses. That becomes, right, I'm hoping what this does is it begins to.
I agree with you, Gabe. I agree that he's a champion of deregulation. So I think I agree with you. That's what, like I said, if it comes to pass, it's a great statement.
Yeah.
But there's things that the roadblocks that you just mentioned very distinctly and very well, those need to be moved out of the way so things can go faster. And safety has to be there, of course, but you're right. There's just too many roadblocks. In some cases, I mean, California, unfortunately, Steve, is the worst case. Even to get solar put in, I understand it's a nightmare. It takes years to get approvals and things like that, which is crazy.
It is
DC
crazy.
power,
Yeah.
Yep. Because we're living off of, right? It's no one in a political environment wants to listen to sound science and future development when there is a black and white policy that was written 100 years ago that they got employed off of. And if there are politicians and bureaucrats listening to this, I sincerely apologize. It is the natural state, right? And I am sure Andy and Steve can attest to as many dialogues you try to have where you're like, hey guys, here is the real science of what it is. Here's what the deliverable is, right? And so, Steve, I'm sure you've had talks about Q is Q, right? It's the energy in is the energy out, regardless of how I try and trickle it. But
that's right.
Right, it becomes a very painful point, and that's just exacerbated when you're looking at a much larger industrial complex. So
well, before Steve goes, just so you know, everybody watches this show. So just saying, like, it's not all politicians, everyone's watching the show. But all right, go ahead, Steve, jump in.
Amen.
I love it.
Well, so back to his speech, and he didn't bring it up. A friend of mine locally here works for a company called TAE, and they've got billions and billions of dollars of investment for fusion power, right? And so my guy's one of the second or third tier down engineers talking to all the scientists. And so True Social just took them public. And so if you take a look at the history of what's going on right now, it's an interesting play. Now we're quite a ways away from fusion, that's a fact. But the truth of the matter is they're opening up more investment. But the other piece of this is the nuclear side of it, right? So the deregulation, not so much deregulation, but the shortening time span to take nuclear to the next level. And we finally have everybody agreeing that nuclear power is better to make electricity than it is to make bombs, right? So I think we're moving in the right direction. You guys were both in the service. I was too. I didn't disclose that. I was in the Marine Corps, so hopefully you don't hold that against me. But I spent a little time on some Navy ships, and these were the diesel ships, of course. But I did get to go out with the Nimitz, which was one of the first nuclear ships out there. And our whole fleet is done by these wonderful nuclear devices, and so that is, I believe, where we're going to see things happening. And you got guys like Gates that are really pushing this stuff. There's a whole infrastructure now that's developing now that people are starting to embrace this on the smaller scale. And I think these plants would not only feed themselves, but feed the communities, like you said, Gabe, around them, because they become the nucleus. They have the money to justify and invest in it, right? Where before there was this, stay off. Now that they're independent, they can make their own power. They can make enough power to satisfy the communities around them. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah.
I guess that's the
Yeah, I mean, so basically we go through this, right? I do this. We find land sites and we build power, and I've got my power producer that comes along and he does it all. That's not the issue. I think getting the power or doing behind the meter and finding that there's a lot of capital chasing it, like my power guy has got plenty of people that would love to give him money to go build power plants. What we're facing is the end tenant is not ready to unplug from the grid. Like they'll look at a behind the meter solution as a bridge, but they will not look at it as a primary source. They do not want to be islanded for redundancy and risk mitigation, all the good things. But especially if you're in Texas, what they got to understand is you're looking at, like, no joke, in some areas, 10 years before you will get connected to the grid. 10. So y'all need to all get over yourselves. If you want capacity, get really warm fuzzies about behind the meter power generation, because that's what we're going to have to do. I don't know how else you're going to get capacity. I don't get it. But okay. Off my soapbox. Off my soapbox. Go, Andy. Go.
I'm just agreeing with you that makes a lot of sense. And then for any politicians that are listening, and you mentioned that 100-year-old bill, Gabe, that's kind of a sacred cow. You might remember this old wise saying that sacred cows make the best hamburgers. So you might want to think of doing a little Texas barbecue on that. All right.
Yes.
Amen, brother. I love that.
They do make the best. All right. So let's talk a little bit, since I've got two cooling guys on here, which is awesome sauce. Let's get to some cool dudes. Let's get to obviously we can. Don't get me started on. I don't. Y'all weren't on the show last week, but I was talking about. I have been the guinea pig, and I've gone out to try to talk to people about the data center industry, and I get on Facebook and I get lambasted. I no joke. I'll put out a Facebook post about these are all the myths around, this or that or whatever. And if you want entertainment, get out some popcorn. Find me on Facebook and watch these people. They call me all sorts of names. I'm lying, this, that, and the other. And there's just all these myths about data centers. And the one thing is around the water, right? And so they're like, oh, but it's now causing an issue because you've got the mayor of the city of Denver coming out going, we're going to put a moratorium in place. You have deals outside of Austin, Texas that got voted down. They would not change the zoning for the data center. It was a $1.6 billion project, and all of that money, all that tax revenue could have gone to the schools, the parks and roads. But they have this thing where we're sucking all the water out of the earth, everywhere, which is not true. And so let's talk through liquid cooling from a perspective around that. And do you expect every data center in the future to go to some sort of that kind of system? And then about the next one was, how does that impact on the power side? And what does that look like? Does liquid cooling create efficiencies? It does. I know it does. But let's talk through those topics. So, Gabe, go first.
Yeah. So let's first start off with the social media loss is not predicated or not founded off of lies, right? So that was old traditional design with cooling towers, right? Cooling towers consumed public water and then put it into the atmosphere, right? And the problems came when you have very large companies like a Microsoft and a Google, whose global data centers water allowance was 1 million liters a year, and they're getting 12 million liters a year, right? So consume that down, and that is a community's worth of water. So that is true facts. You can go and research that and see that, right? There are reports and data. So today's concern isn't founded off of nothing. The problem is that once again, we have individuals who aren't updating, right? They're not following where our trends are, right? We're no longer becoming open loop, open to atmosphere, where we're creating clouds that will rain back down, because we all learned in high school earth science the cycle of water, right? And try and claim that is we're green and sustainable, right? Because it goes to the atmosphere and it'll rain down. It's ridiculous, and I am sorry for anybody who heard that from a data center owner, right? But today's designs don't do that, right? We don't tap off into water that we decide to never give back. Right, there are a number of ways to design your loops and your primary facility cooling to be closed, right? So one-time fill, and I don't have to worry about it, to tap into gray pipe and then send it right back a little bit warmer. There are a number of things that can be done that are very strategic, very effective, very efficient, and done at just about every data center now, so that we're not doing that, right? And so if you are a public person who doesn't know data centers, I don't want to call everyone silly, but you're just not reading the most up-to-date information, right? And so I think that's what we need to look at. And now we can talk about how do data centers get built. If you are not building to be liquid cooled, then you are doing one of two things. You have stagnated your growth, right? Which is not a bad thing, because there are you will need air-cooled data centers, but you aren't going to see incremental growth in this high density move. And so you have just decided that we found our happy medium. We will enjoy a 1% margin gain year over year as we get more operational efficient, and that's just where you're going to be. Otherwise, you have to do liquid. Steve, I don't know if you want to say anything there.
Well, before that, you can call them silly, because they call me all sorts of ugly things. So just call them whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you.
Go, Steve.
Yeah. So my experience, obviously, I'm new to this world, but I've done a little research. I'm not new to cooling, of course, and all the methods are the same. The science is the same no matter what you're cooling. So we all agree on that for sure. But even the air cooled plants, though, they're still chilled water. It's still water. It's just you're making cold air with water, right? You're using the refrigerant to make the cold water, but you're still running water cooled. So I'm not sure that you can get away from it, even unless you're a small enterprise. Then you could just de-exit all the way with just refrigeration. But from everything that I see out there, it seems like water cooling is where it's at. Evaporative towers are sort of, we've gotten away from them in California. I mean, if you water your grass too much over here, you could get shot. I mean, it's, in fact, I was talking to a guy just yesterday who's got a printing press, and he's running his rollers, believe it or not, with city water in and out. He's up in where was he? He was in, not Utah, but regardless. So I have him on the phone and I said, listen, I mean, I'll give you the chiller. You just send me $300 a month to keep quiet of the violations that you've created, because they'll put you in prison here in California. So yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I don't know if you can get away from the water side of it. And you're right, the efficiencies that we're doing today. I will say this. So in my background, we've never really done water tower cooling ever, right? We've done adiabatic fluid coolers though. So we've always been a dry cooler, split system type of mechanism, right? So we were forced into a very small footprint. So to give you an example, a 500 square foot plant chiller of 120 tons, let's call it, I do that at 27 square feet. Of course, the heat of rejection isn't with me. I have to put that someplace else. And so we don't care what that is. So we use a fluid cooler, right? And then we use a remote condenser. But the fluid coolers that we've used were always adiabatic. And that technology on the dry coolers has moved quite nicely in the right direction now. Before, they used to just piss water all over the place, right? And they just mystified the air. They were just no different than the swamp cooler. But
Right.
today they have now figured out, which we did this, by the way, we put our own controls on them years ago, where they're reading the dews and they're going, okay, we're only going to evaporate where we can. If we can't evaporate, why waste the water? So they've almost come to a zero level of evaporation. And the argument is, and I know you know this, Gabe, the argument's going to be that evaporation that we use, if you look at the energy savings compared to what it takes to make that kilowatt of electricity, it's dramatic, right? That's just this is going to be an education though, because when you talk to people, as soon as they hear adiabatic, they think evaporative cooling. We just drain Lake Mead. We have no drinking water for the rest of our lives. And everybody freaks out, not doing the math. If you really start looking at the math of, because you need water to make electricity. So,
Mhm.
1 kilowatt here, or you use, a tenth of a kilowatt here. You tell me which way is better. That's just, the way I see it and the way it is.
Yeah, and you asked about efficiency, Amy. So water removes 4x what air can do from a heat standpoint, right? So from a power efficiency standpoint, right, your ROI is 21 months at the worst case when you go to liquid cooling over an air-cooled data center, right? That the return on investment is significantly there, and that is simply based upon your operational efficiency gains that you get when you move to full liquid cooling. When you make this move in this adoption, right? So the financial metrics all tell you the exact story you need to hear. You got to go to liquid cooling. The mechanics of heat rejection tell you have to. Your company's existence for future high performance in AI tell you have to do liquid cooling, right? There is nothing in this data center world that is telling you not to do it, other than your own individuals within your business that are now afraid of water in their IT space, right? Which I see Andy smirking because I'm sure he's heard it too, right? And Steve, you will hear it too, that we design data centers without water in the IT space, and I will keep doing it, right? And so you are trying to break these norms when it doesn't make sense, right? It's the only way to exist. We have been designing water into white spaces, into buildings, into clean rooms, right? Every industry on God's green earth is putting water into places, and it's not creating these seismic apocalyptic events within a facility, right? You design it properly, you maintain it properly, you operate it the way it's intended. You're not going to have an issue, other than you're going to be you're on the trend to incremental growth that you can't keep up with, right? And so you have to adopt it. You have to do it. Any story you want to tell, you can't get away from liquid cooling to your data center.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of mandated by AI, right? I mean, there's no AI factory, GPU data center. None of them are being built, or are they, without liquid cooling? Have you seen some built without liquid cooling?
No, you can't,
Yeah.
right? Because it comes down to heat density, right? And to Steve's point, right, regardless of industry, the science and the math is the science and the math. That doesn't change, right? If you're trying to reject 100 kW of heat, you can't do that through the air unless you're going to move so much air that no human can actually walk in there,
That's
There's a
very good.
reason why you don't walk behind an airplane as it's trying to take off. Right?
Let's try on an aircraft carrier. Let's try on an aircraft carrier.
Those
Well, they're
guys,
not-
by the way, man.
Yeah, but they're not walking, right? They're
They're
not
not
walking,
walking, they're
They're
running.
tumbling.
and they're using catapults, right? So different
Yeah.
methodology, right? They're not running off
Yeah,
of
right.
that and heat rejection that comes out of there. You can't move enough air.
Wasn't
Right, you-
there a movie like where somebody did that? Like there were an air. God, what was that movie? Was it air traffic control guy? It was John Cusack. God, I'm like horrible. I don't know why I can remember the scene. And the air traffic control guys go down to the tarmac, and like the airplane's landing, so they get behind the jet engine and it like blows them up, and they did it for fun. Like I can't remember that movie, but that was hilarious. All right,
I
that's
don't know,
squirrel.
but that
Squirrel.
does sound like a movie when you're doing it for fun. You can
Yeah,
do
I
it
know,
for
right?
jokes. Do it for jokes for sure.
Yeah.
For this is a real that's why I brought this up. I spent a little time on a carrier, and during operations, I mean, you've got the catapults and you got birds up on the front of this thing being launched up, but you got birds taxiing all the way around, lining up to get up there. And you know, we had some turboprop planes, the E3s, and this Navy chief, just the plane turned and he just right down the line he went. The wind blew him all the way 6, 20, 30 feet. He just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. But I'm going to tell you something that's interesting about this water cooling side of it. And for me, being new to this market, I've been in an engineering company for my whole entire life. And my guys, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, these high-powered, rendering computers that we bought for thousands and thousands of dollars. I walk into the engineering department and I see this little fan unit sitting there and these water lines going into these little $3,000 computers 25 years ago. And I about freaked out. I'm like, whoa, 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 what's that water doing inside that computer? So they were doing water cooling back then because they wanted to overclock them, right? And now as I look into this market, I'm like, how could have anybody figured out that putting air and the way you have to move the air to cool this little device is smart? I mean, find a way to protect it from getting wet, and you're going in the right direction. I'm amazed how this industry evolved, as smart as these people are, and missed the thermodynamics class, right?
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
That's a
Well,
great point,
I'm so old that like
I
I
love that.
dropped my iPhone in the toilet and it busted. So I always think that, oh God, it's gonna leak and it's gonna fry everything. I gotta get over that. Like,
Yes,
but
you do.
yeah, that's just me. Yeah, Andy,
Yeah.
jump in.
Stop drinking too much. Usually, so that's how most people I know that drop their iPhones in toilets that had a
Yes,
rough night.
no, that might have been involved. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I have I have a picture here I'd like to share with the cool guys. That this is what our
Do
vision
it.
of the future for data centers. If I could do that, because I
Go for it.
think they may like it. All right. So let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen here. All right. Share
So,
screen.
Steve, I would tell you
on.
that most people didn't miss the thermodynamics class. We were just never smart enough to be even considered to enter it.
No, I didn't
You
mean
got
you.
that, Dave?
I meant
I'm
the
right
industry.
there with you, brother.
The industry, right?
No, I know.
Let me know if you guys can see this or not.
I gotta add it. There you go.
Oh,
It is
here it
added.
comes.
There we
All
go.
right, so this is these are two slides from a presentation we did at a very large hyperscaler, and I believe somebody mentioned their name earlier. If you go on LinkedIn and follow some stuff I posted, you can find out who the company is, but I don't feel comfortable really talking about it right now because I don't know who else is listening. But anyway, this basically is, if you look at this, you got NVIDIA's roadmap, and it's going to change the way data centers are going to operate, because you're going to have a high density thing. And if you notice on the bottom, for you cool guys, you notice the changes in cooling system. They're saying air cooling is going to go bye-bye and liquid cooling is the future. All right. Which is, you guys already use it now, but it's going to become the standard, I should say, going forward. All right. So that's any questions on this? And there, if I go to
love it. It's fine.
yeah, I sent this to you, Amy. You could put it,
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
this
We will.
basically, the key thing here is if you look at the other argument that you have, and you guys brought it up about, efficiencies and power savings. AC system total power loss is about 25%. If you go to a DC system with liquid cooling, you're basically saving an additional 15%. You're down in the 10% range. So that's pretty powerful when you're talking about money. All right.
Yeah.
So, and guys, if you'd like, I'll send this to you. I mean, we've shared this publicly, these two slides. There's some other slides behind it. And we're probably going to have a tech seminar in a data center world in April in Washington, D.C. on this very subject. We have 45 minutes. So I'm trying to get the guy that's kind of the brains behind this is a Dr. Park, S.J. Park. By the way, the Korean companies, there's a lot of Lees, there's a lot of Parks and other names. So I have to be very careful when I'm sending emails out that I'm sending it to the right Dr. Park. So, it's just kind of interesting. So anyway, I just wanted to show that real quick. It kind of validates everything you cool guys were talking about, that this is really makes sense. Not only physics, but now the other argument you can add now is dollars, because now you're talking about saving money, right? And that we usually will do that. And by the way, my background is drives, and liquid cooled drives have been around a long time. And I also know about chill plates. So the other question I have for you guys, besides water, is there a liquid that could be in a sealed system that turns to gas to cool down, and then it reconstitutes as a liquid in a recirculated system besides water? Have you guys, is there something you guys are looking at applying that in data centers?
I am not. So I will let Steve chime in. He's got more years than I do, but all you're talking about is another refrigerant, right? And so regardless of who makes this oil-based thing, it is today's version of refrigerant. I am hesitant to dive into two-phase cooling because at any moment, right, just like you saw with all the refrigerants, that today's newest version is tomorrow's banned substance that is still an issue, right? And so from a single-phase fluid, God created the greatest method of rejection, and that is just natural, clean water.
That's right. That's right. So, but you're absolutely right. And we, for us, two phase is really a step down from the level of refrigeration that we do, right? We do cascade systems, negative 100 C degrees, right? So we get into really some scientific stuff. In fact, we co-build for a company that's Raytheon owns. It's a company up the road from us. We built a lot of their stuff. We had all the fab guys out there, Intel and stuff like that, just to check us out. But you're absolutely right. The two phase is interesting, and if everybody, just a simple rule of thumb, you boil water on the stove, it'll never go above 212, right? And that's two phase. So it goes up, it turns to gas, you recondense it back. That's the whole process. You still need that same other side of it, unless you go to vapor compression, I guess is the answer. But the two phase is definitely something to look at. And I agree with Gabe 100%. You're adding complexities to that whole process. I will add one thing that I've noticed within this marketplace that's different from where I come from. We always, and I say always, for all of, including the fab guys that like the Intels, it's always direct cooling for us. We never do a facility to a CDU or zone control, if you will, because you added another layer of overhead. So the closer you get to things that really turn everything around, and it may not be practical on the big super scale side of things, but you want to be as close to the heat of rejection, keep it as close to the process as possible, keep your hydraulics as close to the cooling as possible, and you run that out and you do a direct loop, and you now just cut out all of those other additional layers of energy required to make that work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
direct cooling, and you'll see this with these fluid coolers now. You're going to put these fluid coolers in place and you're going to pump them up and you're going to throw them to a secondary loop. Well, every time you add another layer, you have a delta that comes out. And I guess NVIDIA just launched the 115-degree chip, right? 120-degree chip, which is
Severe
great.
Reuben. Yeah.
Beautiful, right? I mean, we've been doing UV systems at that temperature for 100 years. And we do those direct cooling as well, right off the fluid cooler, straight to the process. We take out those other layers, and I think I'm hoping that this industry is going to start embracing that if they're really concerned about electricity and finding ways to maximize that. Gabe, you know, I think you're already doing that, aren't you? You're a single loop the way
So
you process
we
today.
still no, our CDU still sits in between the facility, right? A primary loop and a secondary loop. And so, Steve, in this market, the difference comes down to the filtration and micron level requirement on the on those chipsets.
Right.
And so, right, I don't want to have a 5 micron filter on my entire facility, right?
That's right.
And so it's a very large filter, and I would take up too much capex in dollars versus
Right.
control that at a much smaller level. Reasons is the level of filtration and cleanliness that you want on the secondary side. And that's where I put my spend so that I don't have to do it on the primary side. Right.
Gotcha.
And so, right, because the primary side water is going to be used for everything else in the facility. Right. And so, Steve, that's where you're going to see the separation. And why, plus it would allow me to open up to doing different bodies of water as a inlet instead of having to have a facility mechanical plant. So having a facility mechanical plant and a data hall mechanical plant, make the data hall mechanical plant go away, have one facility, and that's where you can get all of your water from, or make the mechanical plant go away altogether and go get an open body of water, a gray pipe, a purple pipe, right? And now start becoming a truly sustainable high density data center and achieve that by doing an open loop on your facility side and not having to deal with the filtration. So I don't think you'll get the market, Steve, to follow to where we go down to a direct loop. I think that you'll get some who start to expand what their secondary side looks like just because of the densities and the heat rejection we need. And if you do a very small loop, physics will eventually take over, and you can only put so much megawatts of heat into that contained space, right? At some point.
Interesting. All right, so bigger pipe, more stuff, right? Like longer.
Yeah,
longer
or you
loop.
get more volume of water to put, or more volume of fluid to put your heat into, and now you don't run into where I'm just evaporating everything, and now I have no water.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we had. Yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
I was just because I gave your. Sorry. Go.
You go. I'm just kidding. We have actually a question from our audience, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. So you answer that, and I'm going to get the question up. So go, Steve.
So, Gabe, your approach takes away that extra layer of overhead by taking it from a natural body. So now that cost delta is reabsorbed in the way you do it, which is much smarter. So I would agree with that. I agree with you on the other side as well.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Here's the question. Y'all can read that. Y'all, I'm so glad we have nerds on this show because I don't get this. So does anybody have an answer to this?
I would continue to use standard water, right? I don't think you have to go to a DI or go to any one of these other chemical fluids. I think using traditional water, just watch the filtration, right? And what you'll find, at least in my experience, is that you need to watch what your pressure drop's going to be across your filters, and then whatever means of liquid delivery, whether you're going to a chip, you're going to an immersion tank, you're going to a rear door, going to a water mist station, whatever it is, just watch your pressure drops. But I don't see a need to change over from using your standard water. Process it, filter it, keep it moving.
Okay. All right. And this question is for you, Andy. The DC, the slides you were showing, I'm sure, Nathan, that's what you meant, is, I don't know what that means either.
Actually, so the DC system subconductor is simply standard DC bus bar. There is no there is some silicon components in the transformer and the solid state breaker that was shown on that slide. But there is no superconducting bus bars. It's all standard, usually copper bus bars that are treated. It might be some aluminum, but typically we use copper in all of our hardware. The interesting thing is, and you're gonna love this, cool guys, the solid state transform I didn't really want to talk about, but because it's really one of the it's actually quite a technical achievement that several companies are working on, because transformers haven't changed much over the last 200 years or 100 years or whatever it's been, 150. They're currently air cooled, and we're actually moving to water cooled for them, liquid cooled to get more higher density out of the solid state medium voltage transformer. So it's pretty cool, and that also gives efficiencies. So Steve, if you have a compact product, we might want to have a conversation with our engineering team in Korea to see if there's something that makes sense there for both companies. All right.
Sure.
But anyway, a great question on bus bars. But I'm pretty well versed on bus structure because, as I said before, the meeting before we went live, I used to run Methode Electronics, and we did bus structure, and we also made the bus structure that went into the Ohio class subs, which was nuke powered subs that then powered from there. So very proud of that fact. Also, more proud of the fact is that we made a lot of bus bars that go on airplanes, and I made sure that we made them safe. So when friends and family and anybody else goes on a plane, that Methode bus bar is going to work. So
very good. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll be thinking of you.
I have, I don't have as many miles as some people, but I have about 1.5 on American and about 3/4 on United. And over adult cocktail, I will tell you why I don't have more on United. It's a long story. It goes back 20 years. All right.
Well, so you just revealed that what your accomplishment was mostly self-serving.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Listen. Real quick. So when I took over, they were a heartbeat away from losing their aerospace certification at the factory, and when they came back and inspected us, we went from 3 majors and 7 minors to 3 minors, and the inspector said that he never saw a turnaround like that before in his storied career of 30 years. So very proud of the fact of the team that we put in place that got that done. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's a history. It's now it's hey, you know how it is. What have you done for me lately? That's a chapter in a book. Put away.
Andy, I'll be thinking of you this weekend as I board all of my flights. So
exactly.
Well, the good news is most bus bars that go on the planes, they have at least a 20 to 30 year life cycle, sometimes even 40. So be hanging in there, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's talk nukes. Let's get back to nukes. Apparently there's there have been talks so Microsoft tried to buy one of the things of 3 Mile Island, and then AWS found out about that, and they were going to buy the next one because, the millionaires got to compete with one another. And then, but there's an article about AWS is starting to get, and this is rumblings because I'm hearing stuff, but they're starting to get really interested in Texas, probably because we're just cool like that. But they're looking at the Comanche nuclear plant in Texas and trying to co-locate next to it, which makes all the sense of the world. And the Somerville County just approved their development agreement. So they did not have a moratorium in Somerville County on the data center side. But when we talk through co-locating next to a nuclear generation plant, and this is really kind of anyone, but Andy too, how much of the electrical on those old nuclear plants, how much of that electrical infrastructure around there needs to be upgraded? That's just my interesting thought is on those, because I've looked at old coal power plants and trying to reposition those either to nat gas or whatever it may be. But when they're going in to look at to co-locate next to a nuke plant, a big one, what does that look like? I'm curious.
Nothing different than deploying far away to a new area of initial development from a distribution standpoint, right? So upgrading infrastructure, if you are a new off-taker, that is going to happen naturally anyways.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Being close to it means that you are that much more efficient. You have lessened your overhead costs by lowering significantly your transmission costs, right? If I am your single off-taker for a large enough chunk, I might not pay any transmission fees and be able to negotiate my PPA down to pennies versus quarters, right? And be able to reduce that. And so that is the value add, right? The upgrade would happen. They were 200 miles away. It is still going to have to happen, right? It does not matter.
I just like to add to what Gabe said. Since I had Schneider Services in my background, and I know a lot about gray field versus green field. The key is, and this is not a mean-spirited thing to say about Texas, because our grid across the whole country is old and outdated. And thank you, Westinghouse and Edison, for your help in that. But the key is, if it's old, you're going to have things like medium voltage transformers and high voltage transformers that are very, very long lead times, and you're going to need to figure out what you need to do on those quickly, because those are the things that are high. So basically, if you have high voltage coming out of the facility, it's going to have to be transformer down to medium voltage, then medium voltage down to low voltage. And then if it's the data center of the future with DC, then of course it's going to go from AC to DC, unless you're idling and you have you have a solar farm that's giving you DC, then you just push the DC over, right?
Right. Yeah. Yes, our infrastructure is old, needed to be replaced a while ago. Nobody wanted to do it, and obviously, why would they if they didn't really have to? But the data center sheet put a big old spotlight on our infrastructure and how old it freaking is. That's for sure. But it's interesting how they're getting creative. Like most of the guys, they're trying to do anything to find any sort of power. I will say that the coal plants that I'm looking at on retrofitting out, I'm sure the state of Texas is kicking themselves for decommissioning those. Back in they were kicking off like 600 megawatts back in the day, and they decommissioned them in 2018. Like this is like, I bet they're like, oh, seriously.
We had that in California. They decommissioned us as well.
I know.
San on frame.
I know.
So just a question: how close logistically would the nuclear plant be to the actual data center, distance wise?
Oh, I didn't even look, but I'm sure it's
a couple
it's
hundred
really
feet.
close.
Okay, so here's
carrying a fence line.
Okay, so get a load of this, right? So thermodynamically, absorption cooling, right? Normally you need at least 200. There you go, buddy. So you get it. So right, 100%. I knew you did. So now all of a sudden absorption makes perfect sense. If you got to cool. That's why they put them near the ocean if they can. They want to. Around San Onofre, the water was nice and warm in California.
Yes,
that's the best place to swim and surf, right? If you didn't mind glowing at night. But just kidding about the glowing part. So there's the other side of the thermodynamics, right? So they killed two birds with one stone. They created all this heat. Data center doesn't create enough heat to really make it make sense from where we're picking it up. But this is a total win all the way around. If you do it, and Gabe, you could probably talk better about it than I can.
So yes, absorption chilling is becoming closer and closer to an actual reality at scale in the data center space.
Yeah.
Because we are finally getting to a point to where we'll have a high enough consistent temperature on the return side of the technical loop to where we're going to clip 50C. right? And
Yeah.
so you clip 50C on your return side consistently at a large enough volume, right? All of a sudden, you are now cooling for free, right?
100%.
You are now making pennies back, right? And so that's where there's a lot of interest going there, Steve, right now in that
I would
conversation
imagine.
of how do you design it? How do you get it to scale? How do we do it? Is it, what are you capped at? There's now a lot of interest in absorption chillers now that we've finally clipped that 50C mark, right? And that's where I think the market, once again, as Steve noted, nobody went to thermodynamics and energy classes, is when NVIDIA came out with that 45C intake, there wasn't, everyone on the liquid cooling side was celebrating and high-fiving because we knew it was coming. The capital forecasters were like, oh my God, that means the entire cooling market is dead. And you're like, man, you guys missed it. We are now become profit generation because we can start to reuse that heat in significant ways, and through absorption chilling, use heat to cool. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a fluid engineer. I still don't get how I use hot to make cold, but I love the guys who figure it out. Yeah.
It's actually pretty good, actually, right? So that's very cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, y'all, look at that. Can you imagine? We made it. Our hour is up. These things are always so much fun. I'm telling you, we have a good old time on this show. Thank you guys so much for coming. As we wrap up the show, Gabe, if somebody would like to get a hold of you, sir, how could they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. As far as I know, I'm the only Gabe Andrews there because anytime I search for Gabe Andrews, I come up.
No, that's got to be the algorithm, man.
Hey, that's all right. So as long as I stay as number one on my own searches, then I'm going to own that title for as long as I can. So you can easily find me. Just look up Gabe Andrews on LinkedIn. Go to nautilusdt.com to check out the company.
All right, that's awesome. And Steve?
Steve Barberry, I'm on LinkedIn as well. You won't find too much on the website because we really are still in the graphic arts side of things, but we're a thermodynamic company.
That's awesome. And Andy?
So LinkedIn's the best way. And Gabe, I already sent an invitation to you. Steve, when I get your last name, I will send you an invitation, and I'll send these PDFs to you. You guys can have.
Steve is like Madonna. He's like just Steve.
Yeah, I didn't. This is my first time, guys. I mean, I'm new to the art market. I'm new to this whole thing. It's actually it was quite pleasurable meeting all of you folks and chit chatting. And Gabe, you're somebody that I'd like to chat with some more after this. And same with you, Andrew. What service were you guys in, by the way? I kind of disclosed mine. What about you guys?
I was in
Come on, let's hear it.
U.S. Army. I was
fantastic.
I was driving field artillery, self-propelled, until they sent us to the sandbox and drove a Humvee all over the place.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I missed the sandbox because I got out right before that. But I was with the 16 PSYOPs out of Morgantown, West Virginia, and we backed up the Marines. So we did some training with the Marine Corps. I have no problem with the Marine Corps.
Good deal. Well, thanks you for your service, and we're all in the same camp there.
We all are.
Exactly.
I just want
one thing you have to know about a Marine, though. I will just say this: Marines like to fight, and if we don't have another brand of service to fight with, we fight with ourselves.
Exactly.
So just don't ever take it personal. That's just who we are.
That is so funny. Yeah, my dad,
a petty officer that works for us. I'll introduce you. He lives out west in Seattle. You guys can spar. But anyway, Steve and Gabe, I want to thank you because I really learned a lot from you guys today on cooling. I hope some other people that tuned in or will tune in the future also will learn from that, because it is really the path to the future. And one of the things that I like about this show is we're talking about current events, but we're also letting people know where we see the data center is going in the future.
Agreed. Yeah, it's good.
For sure. All right, y'all. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.